Well, welcome back, everybody, to another one of our video casts about things, all things shoulder, and really, to some extent, other interesting topics in the physical and occupational therapy world. And we have a special guest today. Our guest is Talmage Cooksey, and Anne literally wrote the book on shoulder surgery recovery. And so you must know that's why we contacted and followed up with her. Anne's coming to us today from Hot Springs, Arkansas, where back in 2013, if you read the intro in her book, after a long day, she hit the shower and then the shower hit her back. She took a tumble. She got hit in the head, bounced her head around a bit, and then realized she damaged her shoulder. In 14 or 15, she published the book, and it's available on Amazon. We'll come back to that. Interesting about Anne, who's now 60. She was 53 when the accident happened. She's a guitar playing musician, and as she tells her story, you'll hear that interruption from her regular daily activities of guitar playing really caused her to move forward with an aggressive recovery plan. So welcome, Anne. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm happy to be
Well, glad to have you here.
here.
And let's just kind of start out from the get-go here. Do I remember you were at a camp or someplace when
Yes.
this happened? Or,
I was traveling in Connecticut and it was a really long day and I'd done a whole bunch of camp laundry and we were staying in a hotel, and normally I'm pretty cognizant and I think, I'll use a mat when I get in a shower. Getting older, I always make sure that there's something. I didn't even think about it. I was tired, stepped in that shower, whoop, up, my feet went up, my head went around. I thought I'm dying. I somehow ended up in the tub backwards and I thought, I can't move and I don't know what's going on. So I called for my husband.
Gosh, that's a fairly traumatic fall. Now you're away from home at that point. Did you go to the ER?
I did. They checked me out, did a CAT scan. They were just like, yeah, you can put you in a neck collar, give you some pain meds, you're going to be okay. And what I found out when I got home was that I went to my chiropractor right away and I had twisted my first cervical completely like that way. And so he had to put me back together. What I didn't realize was that it had totally degraded my shoulder, that things had torn, but I wasn't paying attention to that because I'm thinking neck.
Right. Yeah, that you hear that oftentimes. People will fall, they'll break a wrist, they'll treat the wrist, or they'll fall and they'll injure their knee in the fall. And it's just later when they figure out they've got a shoulder, a developing shoulder issue. How long after the fall did you finally go in to get an evaluation and start working on a treatment plan for your shoulder?
It was about a year later because I'm a tough old bird. And I was just like, I'm going to ignore this and I'm just going to keep going. But then I was helping a friend of mine direct a children's choir and I could not put my arms up. In other words, this one went up and this one was like, no, that's not, nope, it's not working. And I thought to myself, now that's odd. And then when I started trying to play my guitar and every time going over was excruciating, I thought, this is not fun anymore. I have to fix this.
Yes, yeah. And so tell me about how you entered the system, the healthcare system for your shoulder. Did you start by going to your primary care physician, or did you go to a physical therapist, or did you go directly to an orthopedist?
I went right to my my GP and I said, I think I have an ulcer. And they said, why? Because my stomach hurts really bad. And they said, why does your stomach hurt badly? I said, well, I've been taking ibuprofen on a regular basis. And they're like, why are you taking ibuprofen? I was like, because my shoulder hurts. They're like, well, maybe that's the issue and you don't have an ulcer. And I'm like, okay. So they did x-rays, and then they sent me to have what's the thing when you go in the tube? Is that an MRI?
Right.
Okay, so they did that. And while I was in there, I was like, okay, this is really painful. And the technician goes, it's usually painful when you have a big tear. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. And so then they sent me to, after they ascertained that it was like really messed up and there was a tear and stuff, they sent me to an orthopedic doctor. And that was not a fun experience, because this particular orthopedic doctor was very, not a ray of sunshine. She was, well, you have to have surgery immediately, and I don't know, you can't have any steroid shot, and your shoulder is degrading rapidly. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is the worst. I literally walked out of there with my son thinking, the sky is falling. This isn't, and he was like, wow, she was a like basket of roses, huh? And I'm like, no, she wasn't. So I called a friend of mine who had had knee surgery, and I said, TJ, you're a trainer, you're this amazing exercise guru. Who did you go to? And she said, oh, I went to the best doctor. Let me give you his number. And so I made an appointment, and I told the receptionist what had happened in the first doctor's office, and she's like, oh, that's not what right at all. And I went in to see him, and like I said, it was like sunshine, clouds had parted.
Mhm.
It was wonderful. I walked, he's like, oh yeah, that's just great. No, it's frozen. We'll get it unfrozen, so you don't have that much recovery after surgery. He goes, yeah, you can have a little bit of a steroid shot. It's okay. Everything's going to be good. I was like, you're my man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a little endorsement there for getting a second opinion, and
Yes, always.
good for you. That's and then so if you're going to try to unfreeze the shoulder before surgery, did they give you some therapeutic exercise or send you to a physical therapist? Tell us about that.
Sent me to a physical therapist. In other words, I was going to be going on a cruise actually to Canada with my family, and I wanted to have the surgery afterwards because I wasn't going to travel with paraphernalia and stuff. So I told him that. So he's like, that's fine. We'll do physical therapy. We'll get you through the summer, the fall, and then we'll, schedule it for the spring. And I said, great. So I did physical therapy all that fall of 2014, and it was great. I went to a wonderful physical therapy clinic. My physical therapist, Darcy, was wonderful. She got me unfrozen, lot of range of motion. I went to my chiropractor to make sure I had all the inflammation was down.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I kind of really approached this as though like I was going to war, and everything had to be ready, everything T's crossed, I's dotted, everything had to be done perfectly so that my recovery would be easy.
Okay, what a great active recovery story there. That is, we call you the attractively active adult patient, and you fit right into our model patient. Unfortunately, a lot of people slip into a fix me mentality, and they don't engage in their own recovery, and it takes them a lot longer, and sometimes they don't even believe they can recover. But the attractively active adult who engages in their recovery pre-op as well as post-op generally has a better outcome. So congratulations on that. So you go on your cruise, you've unfrozen your shoulder, and you're scheduled for, what was the actual diagnosis? Rotator cuff tear?
Rotator cuff, yeah. It was my rotator cuff.
And did you have any labral tears? The cartilage in the joint, was it torn away from the bone at all?
I know that they had to go in and clean it up.
Yeah.
That there was a lot of bone spurs. They did not have to pin my bicep, which, praise God, I'm so glad about that. So I had complete range of motion, and they weren't able to do the back part. It was too far gone. They were just able to pin and suture the front part, which was fine.
Yeah.
So my recovery worked well.
Okay. Well, we should pause right here and ask you to raise your uninjured hand thumb up as high as you can so we can see your range. And now let's see the opposite side. And you're feeling like you got complete range.
I'm actually a power lifter now.
Oh, that's right. You told me that. Tell me how that came about.
Well, I decided to go back to the gym after I thought to myself, last year, I need to do something different. I need to go back to the gym, and I want to run a marathon. I hadn't done that in 30 years. So I was working on that. And then I kept looking at the weights, and I kept looking at everybody lifting the weights. And I was like, well, I can't do that. I've had shoulder surgery. I can't lift weights. And then one of the trainers said, yeah, you can. If you start really, really small, you can build up. And I was like, oh, that world can be open to me. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, wow. And then I started, a friend of mine who's a power lifter, and my son is a power lifter. And they were like, well, just go slow. And if you want any information, we'll be happy to give it to you. And then I went into the gym, and a friend was there, and I saw the deadlift bar, and I saw the weights for deadlifting. And I put the lightest weights on possible. At this point, I've been working out now for about 7 months, and I was getting much stronger, and I had better stamina. And I lifted that, and I fell in love. Lifting heavy things, that's now my favorite thing to do.
No,
and I never thought that possible.
Let's talk a little bit about your about your book. And nice little foreword followed by a table of contents. And I'm just going to read about some of the chapters that you have in here. One you call preparation, and you go to household bills and putting your business on autopilot, carpools and after school help, meal planning, ready-made shirts. I mean, you really cover a lot. Then you go to practice, which you're talking about getting before surgery, learning how to put things on one-handedly, which is really great advice. What to do about sleeping in your bed versus a recliner. Very, very timely things for people that may not be thinking about. Then you talk about the surgery in chapter 4, and then you take various phases, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of your recovery. And then I love your little helpful tips titles here. Your armpit, kinesiotape,
Yeah.
Do your exercises even after your 5th month, keep going. Oh my gosh, I think that's lifetime advice right there, right?
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and you're a good example of that. And you have a little caution here about going out on the town before you're ready.
Oh, yes.
That sounds like it might be a firsthand lesson learned there.
Well, we always rush things, and we forget that, when you're, like I said, you're growing cartilage, you're growing your tendon back to your bone. You're growing a baby shoulder. It's like you're birthing something. And you need to take your time, and you need to protect it at all costs. And that was my Harry Potter quote: constant vigilance, like Mad-Eye Moody. That shoulder was front and center. I always knew what was going on, because when you let your concentration just slip, that's when, your kids are like around your feet, or your dog comes by. The biggest thing in the grocery store, to this day, I don't care how steady I am on my feet, I will always have a cart, because I don't know who spilled something, who's going to come careening out of an aisle. I'm not going back to surgery. I'm just like, no.
Yeah, well, that's a fun story. So let's talk about how people can get your book. I think I bought it first on Amazon.
Right. That's where I have it. It's an audio, it's Kindle, and it's an ebook, and it's a regular paperback.
Had you written before? Because you seem pretty comfortable around writing here.
No, but I always wanted to. I had this like fiction book in my body since I was, in 5th grade. And I really had wanted to write my fiction book first, my young adult book. And my husband was like, well, I don't know about that, but boy, you have a lot of information about shoulder surgery. Why don't you do that one first? I'm like, okay. So yeah, I did that one. And basically I'm conversational.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I write, it's as though I'm talking to you, and I don't hold back.
I think it's very helpful, and personally would recommend anybody approaching or considering shoulder surgery to read Ann's take on her experience. Now, everybody's diagnosis is different, and you didn't have a fracture, and so that's a different consideration. But you did have a traumatic incident, which basically shoulder injuries fall into 2 categories. One that happens because of a fall or an auto accident. And then there are the other people whose shoulders just wear out.
Right.
Where curiously, the recovery protocols are about the same. And curiously, the people who do rehab without surgery go through a similar phasing that you outline here as the people who do have surgery. So while the diagnosis can go in a lot of places, recovering a return to function, normal function, is a pretty standard way. Let me ask you this. Is there anything, if you were going to write it again today, you would have added, or have you made any revisions to it?
Actually, one woman had talked to me this summer, and she said, I can't find the particular bra that you were talking about. It was a comfort choice that had been offered on Amazon. And I told her that now SheFit makes these great bras that you can undo the shoulder straps. They zip up in the front, and they're exercise bras. They're expensive, but when you have shoulder surgery, you want to take the pressure off that shoulder. So that's a really important thing that you need. And for right now, and I'm a researcher, and I'm like, and I could not find any other one but SheFit, and it unstraps right on the shoulder, and you can have the other shoulder strapped up, so you're fine, and it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, I don't think people can really anticipate how much lack of mobility is going to happen in that first 6 weeks.
No, they do not.
You are going to just lose total function on that side. And if you haven't mentally prepared, it can be a bit of a downer as you kind of fight
It's true. It's true. That's why I practiced flossing. I practiced brushing. I practiced going to the bathroom. I practiced putting on shirts without my arm. I ran drills in the house with my arm trussed up and not being able to do stuff. And I would be like, this is not a game. And the kids are like, yeah, it is. You haven't had surgery yet. And I'm like, no, this is serious. But yeah. I wanted to make sure that when I arrived home, I was prepared. But that's me. I prepare. I was the kid who would go to sailing camp, and my mother would pack like 6 extra shirts, 2 extra lunches, everything. So if I got tossed overboard, I could get tossed overboard 3 times. I still had enough stuff to like get through the day. So that's my mental preparation.
Say that again a little bit. That's my mental preparation for the tape, because it broke up a little bit there.
Sure. Comes from when I was younger, and I'd go to sailing camp, and my mom would make sure that I had 3 extra outfits, 2 extra lunches, extra towels, so that if I got tossed overboard or the boat capsized, I would still be able to make it through the day until I got home. So I've always prepared. I mean, I'm always the person who is like the St. Bernard on the trip that's got snacks and wipes and water bottles and extra clothes for other kids. And so when it came to my surgery, I was determined that I would be able to have everything ready, prepared. I'd be practiced. I knew what was coming. And even then, I got knocked on my butt, because the lack of mobility and the helplessness you feel when you are hurt and you don't know what's going on inside there, it's more than you can imagine. Yeah. And so the preparation helps you get through that.
And you're going to get calls. People are going to want you to be their shoulder surgery coach.
I have actually. I've been that. I've made great friendships over the country. I've had great people call me. They let me know when their surgery is. I'm like, okay, if you need anything, let me know. If you get depressed, you find yourself crying on the couch, that's normal. I did that. You're going to make a chart, do your little checkoff boxes. Yeah, I love helping people with that.
Yeah, bless your heart. And we do see just slightly more women than men recovering from surgery. I don't know if it's the machoism in men or what it is, but we're probably not quite as likely to get to that orthopedist in a timely fashion.
Yes, I think, yeah.
Okay. Now, whether we'll use this in the final interview or not, I sent you out a sample of some of the products we make. We shoulder pulley,
Yes,
for example.
I have it on my door.
Oh, you do? Oh, bless your
do.
heart. Did you use it? Did you get a pulley post-op, or is that something that was new to you when we sent it out after we read your book?
That was pretty new to me. I didn't have I did stuff like that in the clinic, but they didn't give me one to come home with. The one I got from you was the first one that I had at home, so I could actually work on my range of motion on my own bedroom door at home. I didn't have to go in somewhere.
And you still
that was great.
And you still found use for it.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I mean that even your exercises are so important. So many people slack off because they think, what's it really going to do? Oh my gosh. And that pulley on the door, you see it, it reminds, let's take 5, let's get that range of motion going because this is a big deal.
Yeah, in fact, I often will say the miracle is not in the pulley mechanism, it's in the reminder to keep moving. And
yes,
it's a very good visual reminder that you've got to keep that circulation going in your shoulder and the synovial fluid, the oil for the joint. It's got
exactly.
You got to move, or you know,
you lose it.
Or you lose it. That's exactly right. Now we also gave you a stretching wand, I think. Did we send you that, or any strengthening bands or tubes?
I have my bands. Yes. I love bands. Bands are fabulous because you have a different range of them, like the the tension, and so you can move from easy to medium to more difficult as your arm's getting stronger. Yeah,
and that's one of the phenomenon on the shoulder. There's 17 muscles that attach to the shoulder in one way or another. So if you sever a tendon or damage a tendon, 16 others want to help, but a lot of them are minor muscles, and so you've got to really taper down the exercise so the larger muscles don't overtake the small ones and they never get exercised. So they really try to draw people through a slow ramp up on the resistance.
Right. That's what they're called, resistance.
Resistance bands. That's right. And I can tell you, it's delightful to talk with you today. Let's just plug your book one more time. Shoulder.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Shoulder surgery recovery. And for you therapists, I suggest you take a read on it and then suggest that your patients, if you see them headed to surgery, have them get Anne's book, which is available on Amazon. So, Anne, thank you very much. And I hope we see some results of others who tap into your knowledge here.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me. This was my first Zoom meeting.
Well, you did great.